Welcome to the Creative Force Podcast, a podcast all about empowering you to live in your God-given identity and go after the dreams in your heart. I'm your host, Sharon Stark, and every week we'll be having powerful conversations that will combine practical and biblical wisdom for living your purpose. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Creative Force Podcast. I'm here today with Carly Day. Carly is a licensed makeup artist here in Colorado. Welcome to the show, Carly. Can you share with the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Of course. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Carly. I live in Colorado Springs. My husband and I have lived here for 4.5 years. We were in Denver previously, and that's kind of where I got established in my makeup business and stuff, but definitely felt called back to Colorado when I was 19, just because I absolutely love the mountains, and Colorado is Loveland, Colorado is where I was born. And so coming back felt like the right decision. And so that's where I met my husband in Denver. And then we moved to the Springs 4.5 years ago to get closer to family. So we have 4 kiddos now, ages
Awesome.
10, 8, 6, and 2. And I'm a mostly stay-at-home mom, but I also get the privilege of having my own little side business as a makeup artist, which I didn't plan for, but God gave me. So a little work on the side and mostly work at home with my kids.
That is awesome. And you mentioned like God gave you this business. So can you kind of share the story of how you got started as a makeup artist?
Yes. So at 19, I had been through 2 years of college, which my first passion and I thought was going to be my career was a ballerina. So I gave kind of my whole youth to ballet and really thought, principal ballerina was my goal. And I mean, long story short, there just burnout and a lot of pressures, that kind of got to me. And so I thought after quitting ballet, what does a person do? You go to college, you get a degree. And so I enrolled myself in college and was there for 2 years, but I felt pretty directionless. And I was also paying for school. So it felt, like pressure there. And my mom was the one who suggested, while you're figuring out what it is that you want to do, she really suggested that I pursue something that I enjoyed and that, success would follow. And so I really am grateful for those words because it just, it kind of gave me the focus and the freedom to just ask myself what it is that I enjoy. And so I started working in retail cosmetics at night. Well, I guess I was between 19 and 20 because that's when I moved to Colorado. I was a barista at Starbucks for a little while, and then God just opened this door for me to start working at a counter. And so I ended up at Laura Mercier for a good chunk of that time. For 8 years, I managed a makeup counter, and on the side, I was developing business for weddings primarily. So a lot of my clients who would come purchase their products at Laura Mercier would, come and have their makeup done for their first date. And then, a year or two later, I was doing their wedding makeup, and then they would refer me to friends. And so it was just this little side business that was developing. And so, I, about, let's see, 8 years into that, and I had gotten married and I had 2 kids at that point. That's when I really felt like I was wearing all the hats as, moms try to do. And I just was this moment of realizing I'm not doing any one of these roles well. And I know God called me first to marriage and motherhood. He's given me this awesome passion in makeup, and it makes me feel creative and gives me a social outlet, but I'm not doing, what I'm really supposed to be doing very well as a mom, because we were 2 ships passing in the night, So there was just this moment where I realized with the side business that had developed, kind of not anything I created, but that kind of created itself, or God led me to. It was a leap of faith to leave my 40 hours a week job
Mm-hmm.
to trusting that we were going to be okay financially, because we did depend on some of my income, to make ends meet.
Yeah.
But I really heard that was maybe not the first time, but a very significant time, in my walk with the Lord, where I really specifically heard him tell me to lean in to your marriage, lean in to your role at home, and I'll take care of the rest.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, that's kind of the door that opened to my personal makeup business, from the counter. So I've been an LLC for almost 7 years now.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love the advice that your mom first gave you when you first got started, encouraging you to just pursue what you enjoy. And then you took that step of faith going from doing it at retail to having your own business. You kind of mentioned that was scary financially. So, what was it really just like hearing God's voice, or what really pushed you to like make that leap?
I mean, so, there's always more, there's always more to our stories.
Yeah.
But I mean, one piece of it is things were challenging. I think
Yeah.
from the moment my husband and I got married, like apart from the makeup side of things and like my own pursuits and desire to be a contributor. And I mean, I think, I had these thoughts in my head before getting married and having kids, is you think you're going to be a certain kind of mom or do things a certain way. And I just never saw myself really as like wanting to be at home all the time.
Uh-huh.
Looking back now, I can understand why there was a lot of fear there, and probably just facing myself and my imperfections. I think motherhood and marriage really have a way of, bringing you face to face maybe with your weaknesses. And so there was probably a part of me, like I said, looking back, that wanted to avoid that. But yeah, I think it was so helpful to have my mom, she's been a support of me and my pursuits anyway, just
Yeah.
a girly girl, one that has always seen that in me and really like helped bring it out. Do you know what I mean? Help
Yeah.
celebrate maybe being a feminine woman. And so um I thank her for that, because it definitely led me down a path that maybe I didn't realize was one that I could make, a living doing. But anyway, back to your question about that. I think that leaning into what God, I knew that he provided my husband for me, and I knew in a sense that marriage wasn't going to be necessarily easy, but you also can't fully prepare for the challenges that arise. And so one aspect of our challenge, I do think, was how full our plates were. So and
Mm-hmm.
just trying to be and do it all. Um and like I said, I just had that realization that I wasn't able to do it all very well, or the way that God wanted me to. And so it definitely was. I mean, faith is not, full of courage moments. It's, I guess the courage is in choosing it, even though there's fear. So
Wow.
for me, maybe just feeling like a coming to the end of my ability to manage it all, the balls in
Yeah.
the and yeah, I really think that I almost didn't see any other way out. So
Mm.
it's like God has a way of kind of putting you in a corner. I mean, it's a loving thing, but you're to the end of yourself, Carly, and now it's time to make a decision. And it's a faith, a trust fall, as I like to call it. And he just delivered. I mean, been a
Amen.
lot of restoration, I think, in the balance at home between me and my husband, just also trusting him to be a provider, and then trusting the Lord if I am to be contributing financially. He's given me the opportunity to do so, but with my kids and my husband at the forefront, you know.
Yeah, that's powerful. And I think a lot of women feel that way, where they feel called to prioritize their marriage and their children. And yet they also are looking at like, what is it that I can do to contribute? And I think it's just beautiful how God has like led you into this. It's really awesome. And can you share with us more just how you invite God, I guess, into the everyday like process with your clients and what that looks like?
Yeah. You know, you can never forget. I've never forgotten those times when the Lord has said, trust me. And then I've laid all the fear at his feet and made the leap. And
Yeah.
then he's faithful. And it's so much better. You know, like our life is so much better than I was trying to plan for it to be before that trust fall. And so I think you look to those big moments, you know, where
Hmm.
you trusted him. Um, you want more of that, you know, and so it's like an encouragement in your own walk, but also in walking alongside others to go, it's worth it to trust Jesus, you know,
Yeah.
it's worth it to make that transition. So yeah, so I mean, and that is such a process to, you know, with the Lord and your personal relationship with him. um I feel like a very simple but super powerful way to invite him in is through prayer. um Specifically now with my clients, um I I try to take the time when I'm driving to a wedding to bring them before the Lord, you know, whether they're a believer or not, but just to pray for them by name, and also to ask the Lord to be my hands and feet because,
Wow.
you know, in the Bible, and I think two different places in Colossians and Corinthians, it says that whatever we're doing, we can do it for the glory of God, and that
Amen.
applies to makeup. You know, it applies
Yeah.
to cleaning toilets or making, you know, the thousandth dinner. It's not just my business, you know, but whatever we're doing, that subtle mind shift. And I think for me, a lot, my prayer life correlates to how much I'm trusting God. So when I don't really feel like giving him the things, you know, or I still want the outcome to be a certain thing, I'm not ready yet, you know. Anyway, my prayer life is definitely tied to how much I'm trusting the Lord. And um, it's an act of faith to bring whatever it is that I need help with, which is everything all the time, right? But to humble myself and say, you know, I need you in this. And I also don't just want my day at work, you know, putting makeup on people to be superficial. I want each person, you know, that I touch to know that I care for them, and, you know, that, yeah, that even putting lipstick and eyeshadow on somebody as they're getting ready for their wedding, you know, that can be an act unto the Lord. And
That's
so
really, yeah, powerful. That's awesome.
it sounds simple, yeah. And I think it's also a discipline to pray, you know, because I'm not going to sit here and say it's something I'm really like good at. It's often for me something I resist, but I don't know. It's just been really sweet in the last few years in Colorado Springs to, it's like to use that time in the car when I'm alone, you know, to invite him in.
I
So
love that. Yeah, that's awesome. And I love that verse too. Like whatever we do, do it for the glory of God. And you said like you get to be the hands and feet of Jesus and literally you're using your hands to apply makeup to people. And that's like
yeah,
really such a powerful visualization. That's awesome.
yeah, it does. It feels like a privilege to do it, you know. And again, I think in the beauty industry, it could be one of those slippery slope things, you know, where it's like, as
Yeah.
a Christian, can I do makeup, and is this godly, you know? And but I do think it all boils back down always to our heart, you know, and why underneath it all. Am I doing this? And I was thinking about this morning, like,
Mm.
who and what am I doing this for? And whatever the this is, whether it's my, you know, my day to be at home with the kids all day, am I working you know, for my blessing or from my blessing,
Oh,
and those subtle heart changes where God is just reminding us, like, I have you in every little detail. And it is a step by step through our day. But yeah, what a subtle, small, but significant shift in even our thinking, which then affects, how our thoughts affect how we speak to ourselves and others, and then our actions as well. So it's been a pretty powerful, simple daily practice, when I'm willing to humble myself to invite him in. And yeah, truly feels like a privilege, like you were saying, to hold someone's face in my hand and just like know that God gave me this, you know, form of art to express myself, but also just to hold someone precious, in my hands.
yeah. And it's pretty cool because you do special events and you do also a lot of weddings. So you're doing makeup on women on their wedding day, which is that's a special event. So I guess, like, what have you seen in those moments, like being with those women? Like, what has God, like, kind of shown you? And, like, how do you want those women to feel, like, when you're doing their makeup?
It feels so sacred and intimate to be a part of getting ready. Like,
Mm,
maybe even just reflecting on my own wedding day, but also, I get to do it so regularly. Um, like how cool that it's like otherwise only one day in your life, but I get to sit in on that. And
yeah.
I don't know, it feels special to be able to tap into that excitement and the anticipation, and the rush, that it is to, have spent a year or more for some of these women to plan for their weddings, and the day is here. But yeah, I think I want, everyone that sits in my chair to know that I see them. I really, you think about how want to be treated too. And I think a lot of us do just have a desire to be seen. And I truly enjoy it, like getting to know people's love stories, and beyond that, what they do for a living. And I feel like that 45 minutes to an hour that I get to sit with somebody, it's a pretty good chunk of time where I get to
Yeah.
kind of interview them in a way, and just um, hold space for them to share, but also, yeah, just to know them. And sometimes there have been opportunities, to either connect over our, mutual love for Jesus, or, the times where I'm asked the question, what inspires you, or why do you believe what you believe? And all of it's special and powerful, and doesn't feel mundane. I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't feel like small talk. Maybe that's what it could be, but I think those conversations I hold so dear, and I feel like I really do get to know somebody in 1 hour a lot more than, you know, and a lot more than I would. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
People,
really,
they're inviting you into their lives. It is like a very special, like, sacred thing.
yeah,
Yeah. That's amazing. And on your website, I know you talk about really wanting to just enhance women's natural beauty. And I think that's so powerful because God has created us. We are all so beautiful. Can you just kind of share, like, is there anything that God has, like, shown you in regards to beauty, or, like, maybe even I guess, like, and for yourself, like, has God shown you anything in just, like, appreciating your own beauty?
yeah. It's funny. I mean, especially lately as I'm climbing the ladder of age, I'm going to be 38 in February, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm old, but I'm older than I've ever been. And I think there is like a social pressure to stay young. And so again, it's that fine line I think we walk as women too, where we are celebrating our God-given beauty, taking
Mm,
care of ourselves, taking pride in what we look like, not just what we look like, but taking care of our temple from the inside
yes.
out, and then slipping into the temptation to have physical beauty be an idol. And so I do think it's a fine line for sure. But I think lately, to answer your question, there's just been kind of a tenderness that I've maybe discerned from God towards myself and aging, where I've seen more wrinkles than I've ever seen. I've had, 5 kiddos and 5 pregnancies, and the toll that life and time take. And I don't look like I did when I was 20, but sort of the beauty and the pride in appreciating kind of what I've been through. And so I'm kind of speaking more to that, maybe because it's the phase of life where I see the temptation to like get Botox or, fillers and things that aren't in and of themselves bad, but just the desire underneath that, and why isn't it okay for me to look 38, because I am 38, and there's so much beauty in aging. And I see it in other women. It's hardest to see it in yourself because you know what you used to look like. I think, the hair that's thinner, or more age spots that become, or more freckles that have become age spots, or whatever it is. And it's sort of this fear of getting older, when really I'm just like, Lord, I have walked, I don't know, so many miles with you from 20 to 38. And, just the gratitude piece of, thank you for giving me this life. Not everyone gets to get older. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
I have a friend who said when she turned 40, it's a blessing to get older. And so with that, I just hope to continue to have, that tenderness that God has towards each one of us as I age. And as I'm approaching, a woman's face as my canvas, this is a unique face that God designed, that I'm not trying to cover up or conceal or, pretend that it's not, for example, aging, but how do I enhance and show off what he already designed, whether that's green eyes, and how you want to put eyeliner there, or, bring vitality to the face with blush and lipstick. Like, it's just so fun and it's creative, but it's not a cover up, and to maybe subtly, fight that social pressure that says we have to look young forever, because we're not. It's a, it's a lie, I think, that we're supposed to be, and heaven will be restored, right? But it's it's okay to have fine lines and wrinkles, because I'm older than I've ever been. And there's also a way not to wear makeup on top of those features. There are things that help and hinder in every makeup situation. But I think I like the word tender, because God is tender with us, and he understands, and he holds us dear, and he's with us in every step of our journey. And we're supposed to live out our days on this earth, hopefully getting older and a little wiser,
Yeah. And I love that gratitude piece, like really just being grateful. It's like we have like a history with God, and it's a beautiful thing, like you said, like aging doesn't have to be a bad thing. That's really good. And could you maybe share with the women listening what would be some of your tips to just like naturally enhance like features? Like, what are some of your favorite beauty tips?
Yeah, it's really, I was thinking about that, because there's so many products, right? And so many things that do turn it up a notch. But if I had to pick one thing, it probably actually is some form of color. So, I mean, and lately a multi-stick, or like a blush stick that can be worn for a little, a little bit of eyeshadow and a little bit of lipstick as well. One brand that makes a really cool multi-stick is Ilia, and that's sort of, I don't know, hot brand right now because it's more natural. ingredients. But they have I actually love their mascara too, but they have these little mini travel size as well as full size like sticks that you can just pop on for cheek color. And then you can triple it as lips and a little bit of eye. And so, love that, because I think that women usually will pick something like, mascara because it opens up the eye. And that is so true. Makes us feel less tired. But there's something about color, I think, in the face, especially in the winter. But regardless, if you were to pose for a picture right then, if you have a little bit on your cheeks and your lip, it goes a lot further, I think, than most other makeup, tricks or steps you can take. Another brand is Bobbi Brown. She used to be involved with her line and then sold that off. I think it's owned by Estee Lauder now, but she started another brand called Jones Road. And I have had several clients now bring with them to like a tutorial or something, these pots. So I don't own one yet, but it's the same idea of the multi-stick, where it's like a cream pot of color in, shades ranging from more brown nude to pink and coral. And it's that pot that you can just rub in and just, gives you a little glow and a little bit of a lift. So I'd have to say that would be my favorite beauty tip. I think people underestimate the power of cheek color. And maybe it was like the 70s, like brown cheeks, or, the two rouge dots, and blue eyeshadow that people are afraid of blush sometimes, but I think it's powerful and I love it.
That's fun. I like that too. Bringing color. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us, Carly, where can people find more about you?
Yeah, probably the most like comprehensive overview would be my website. I tried to streamline all of it's just my business name is my name. So Carly Day, CARLY Day makeup.com is my website. And that's just where you can find everything from a little about me to prices for special events. A gallery of, my work, that kind of thing. I'm also on Instagram, which is a great little snapshot too, kind of a live portfolio, just images. I don't share a huge amount, personally on there, but again, always in everything I do, try to honor the Lord. And that's really it's benefited me too, because I get to find, fellow believers that way. But I'm on Instagram, Carly Day Makeup as well.
Awesome. Okay, everyone go look at those links. And Carly, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to chat.
Do you have big dreams but no idea how to get there? Do you struggle with accomplishing the things that are most important to you? If you answered yes to those questions, I would like to offer you my free workbook called How to Get Unstuck, a free guide on how to get unstuck and live your dreams. This resource is full of tactics I use to help get me unstuck, and I believe that they will do the same for you. You can download this free guide on my blog at youarecreativeforce.com. The show notes for today's episode are available on my blog at youarecreativeforce.com, as well as other resources and inspiration to go after your dreams.